This video is going to show you how to make a pencil-themed pencil cup out of glitter. Don't worry, the glitter's not going to get everywhere because we're going to seal it in place at the end. I actually posted an 8-part series as shorts of this project, but I decided to compile it all into one video. That way, those who want to watch it all the way through can. This is my first tutorial video on YouTube, so thanks so much. If you want to subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. That way you don't miss all the glitter fun. I love glittering office supplies, and I've been doing it since 2015 when I opened my Etsy shop. I also have posted my TikTok lives. I was going live quite a bit on TikTok showing how to glitter and seal glitter, and then I got sick and had to take a 3-month break, but I'm hoping to get back to that soon. Anyway, let's get to it. So this is just a pencil cup. I'm taking Mod Podge and a foam brush, and I'm actually applying it on both ends of the pencil cup. That way I can do the black lead part of the pencil and then the pink eraser. I let it dry overnight, and then you see me here going in with another coat of the glossy Mod Podge on top to seal it in place. So I freehand my lines, and you'll see why in the end, why that's okay if it's not exactly perfect. But also, there are some people that add all the glitter all at once when they're doing projects with multiple different colors of glitter. I personally like to do it in stages. It just really helps me not to mix glitter where it's not supposed to be when I'm using multiple colors, which is why I start at either end, and I save a little bit of time by doing both ends at the same time, if that makes sense. So that's why we're gonna go ahead and seal each individual glitter color before we move on to the next one, and clean in between, of course. So once I applied that top coat of glossy Mod Podge, I let it dry overnight, and then I came in with just a dry paintbrush to wipe away any excess glitter that there was. And then I'm going to go ahead and start the middle where the yellow pencil part is. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. The yellow glitter that I like to use is a bit translucent. So I'm actually going to start with a gold base. You don't have to use a gold glitter base. You could paint it yellow if you want, or honestly, if you choose a yellow glitter that isn't translucent, then you can just go right in with that. But I'm using glossy Mod Podge just like I did before, and I'm applying it all to the middle, and I'm going to put this gold glitter because I really like how my yellow glitter is going to look on top of that. I'm going to let that dry overnight, and then I'm going to do the same thing I did with the pink and the black, and I'm applying the glossy Mod Podge over top once that first little bit dried. That way I can seal in that gold glitter. But I'm kind of going to combine 2 steps here. I'm not going to wait for this part to dry. We're going to go directly in with that yellow glitter that I have there so that I can get the color that I'm looking for this pencil theme design. I do have a lot of people ask me why I don't just dip my office supplies directly in my tubs of glitter and why I use the spoon instead. And that's because when the Mod Podge is wet, it actually can move around, and then your glitter layer doesn't look as even. And plus, when you're using multiple different colored glitters, the spoon actually gives me more control of where the glitter is going, so it's just a little bit easier for me. Once that layer dried overnight, I'm going back in with glossy Mod Podge and my foam brush to get that all sealed up. So when you put on the top layer of glossy Mod Podge to seal the glitter, you want to make sure it's as thin as possible and there's no lumps there because it is the top layer and people will see it. I went in again with my dry brush to get rid of all the extra. Now, this is the part that a lot of people like to use tape for, but I freehand it. I figure the sharpened part of a pencil isn't perfectly even, so it doesn't have to be perfectly even on my pencil cup design. So I feel like it looks just fine in the end, and you'll see if you watch to the end that it really does look great. So I actually use the width of my foam brush to go in and outline the little triangles from the sharpened part of a pencil, and I go around the entire thing like that, and then I'm going to take the corner of the brush to fill it in with the glossy Mod Podge. It is easier for some people if you use a very small paintbrush to fill in the little triangles. That way you don't have to worry about accidentally getting outside of that boundary that you just laid down. But I use the corner of the brush and it works just fine. Also, as far as foam brushes go, you can reuse them. I wash my foam brushes with warm water until I get as much of the glitter and Mod Podge out as I can, and then I just leave them in a cup to dry. It's nearly impossible to get all the glitter out though. So whenever I'm doing a top coat to seal in glitter with glossy Mod Podge, I do use a new brush, or I try to pair it with a brush that already had that color. For instance, this brush is going to have some gold and yellow remnants on it. So I would only use this brush to seal gold or yellow glitter. but I use them basically until they're falling apart because I don't want to waste. So here I finished the triangle design there, and I'm using like a brown to go in and cover up all that glossy Mod Podge so it'll stick. And then I'm taking a dry brush just to dust it away from the black glitter that we already did. Next, I'm going to go in with a silver band that holds the eraser in place on a pencil. Once again, I'm freehanding this, and don't worry, I know a lot of people stress about even lines and everything, but once we get to the vinyl decals, it really does not matter, I promise you, because you can make sure that it looks crisp and even with those decals when we get that far. But this right here actually is a trick I do too. I spin the cup around while I rest my wrist on my table and hold my foam brush as still as possible and just spin the cup around so that I do actually get a pretty straight line doing that. So that's a tip you could try if you're worried about freehanding. So then I'm going to go back in and fill all of this in and go back with my silver glitter so that we can get that on there. So right now we have the brown glitter and the silver glitter that is wet. So I'm going to let both of those dry overnight. That way I can come back in with the glossy Mod Podge just like I did before to seal it. And that's all the glitter we have on there. Look how cute that design looks already, even without the decals. I'm like super excited about this. I love doing pencil designs on office supplies. It is so much fun, and I just feel like it's such a cute teacher gift. I know teachers need supplies, and I know there's things they need for their classroom, but sometimes it's nice just to get a personalized little cutesy gift too, to show your appreciation. I actually used to teach middle school science for several years before I went on maternity leave and decided just to glitter full time instead of going back. So I do terribly miss it, but stuff like this just makes me so happy because it reminds me of all the good times I had teaching. But anyways, I'm going to finish up this glossy Mod Podge here. One item that I really like to use when cleaning the loose glitter out of my office supplies is my cordless electric duster. I do use a dry brush a lot, but like for things like a stapler where there's a lot of little crevices that I can get stuck in and it's hard to get the dry brush in there, my electric duster is perfect. You will see that a little bit later on in this video, but I just thought I should mention that in case you were wondering like how you can clean out the loose glitter a lot easier than just using a dry brush. Now we're on to the brown glitter, sealing that in. I do, like I said, wait overnight in between each of my glitter layers and sealing just to make sure it is completely dry, and then I can brush away that loose glitter very easily. And using the width of the foam brush really makes these little triangles so much easier for sealing and glittering. So that's just like a little tip that if you're going to try this and you don't want to use tape, definitely take advantage of your foam brush width and it'll just make it a little easier. And just as a side note, if you are on TikTok, my TikTok is MWREN24. I actually started seriously posting on there back in January of 2024. So just under a year now. So there's a bunch of videos that I've been able to post of me glittering a lot of different type of things and sealing a lot of different type of things, whether I'm sealing with glossy Mod Podge or UV resin. So if you don't want to wait for me to upload my videos here and my shorts here on YouTube, you can always check me out over there. I also have a Facebook tutorial group where for a while there, I was really going live step by step, start to finish with projects to show everyone how I work on things. But I haven't gone live in there in a couple months since I was sick and had to take a break, but I do try to post in there. And what's great about that Facebook group is you are welcome to post your projects too. I really want to get it more active and have people, you know, share their projects and see what everyone's doing, because I just think that's a fun thing to do. So if you're interested in any of that, I do have that linked on my channel in my bio, so you can take a look here. But now that we've made it this far in the video where I can finally talk about the UV resin, first off, you have to make sure that you are wearing proper gloves, and I actually use UV glasses so my eyes are protected as well. And I craft in my garage, so I make sure my garage door is open so that I have really good ventilation as well. I put a very generous amount of the UV resin all over the pencil cup, and the key here is you have to make sure you're constantly twisting your wrist because you don't want this to drip. Now you can use 2-part epoxy for this step and put this on your spinner. That's just fine. I just like the UV resin sometimes because it's a lot quicker. Like it literally cures in a couple minutes instead of having to wait like a couple days. So it's a lot easier when you have an order that you need to get done on time. So the UV resin, since my craft room is in my garage, it does get a little thick sometimes when it's cold out. So I do use my heat gun to apply heat to it. This helps pop any bubbles if you have any. Honestly, UV resin, you really don't get too many bubbles, but if you do, that'll help with that. And then it'll thin it out so it'll lay even on your cup. So you need to continue to twist your wrist while you're curing it under your UV lamp, like you see me doing here, just to make sure that you are not getting those drips that we talked about earlier. I actually do what I call a semi-cure. I only cure it under the lamp for about a minute, maybe two tops. And then I set this on like a throwaway baking sheet and set it in my driveway in the direct sunlight to finish curing. I find if you have sticky UV, like a lot of people, sometimes they say that they have trouble with their UV still being sticky after putting it under their UV lamp. Honestly, like just set it out in the sun to finish curing. It works every time for me, especially when I'm working on like weird shaped projects or projects that are like big and my lamp is too small for. So that's my craft hack there for you. So now you see in this video, we are finally to one of my favorite parts because this really brings out the design of the pencil. This is where we're applying the vinyl decals. I also do get asked where I buy my washi tape for these decals, but actually I don't use washi tape. I'm sure they do have all the exact colors that you need to do like a pencil theme in washi tape, and that would be great, especially if you don't have a Cricut. But I cut mine out using my Cricut. I just make long strips, and then I have an X-Acto knife that I can kind of adjust the length as needed. So I don't have to cut them to like the exact size I need and make all those measurements. That would just be too hard to do, especially on these little zigzag parts. Since I do freehand it, they're all like different lengths and vary a little bit, not too much, but enough where it would be really difficult to measure that out and cut it all out in the Cricut. So just use strips and an X-Acto knife and it'll look great, I promise you. This is actually perfect too, because since we do freehand the design, if you have any imperfections, make sure when you're applying these vinyl strips, that you apply it in such a way that it'll cover up any of the like squiggles or imperfections that you could have had. You can also, if you want, cut these a little bit thicker if you notice that you really do have wavy lines from your initial glitter design, because if you cut it thicker, it will cover all of that up. But look how cute that looks. I'm so excited. So make sure once you add your decals that you do go in with a second coat of the UV resin or 2-part epoxy, depending on what you're using, because you want to seal in all those decals. Nobody wants them peeling up whenever you're trying to use your pencil cup. And this will just make the item last a whole lot longer. So you can just leave items with glossy Mod Podge as your sealing for the glitter, but then you won't be able to apply the vinyl decals because you won't have a flat surface to apply them to, and your decals will look all bumpy. But some people do like the texture of the glitter if you're not adding decals, and that's just fine to seal it like that. When I first opened my Etsy shop, I didn't even know that UV resin was a thing. So I used to only seal with the glossy Mod Podge and it worked great. But now I love UV resin because it gives that like smooth, hard, solid finish. It's so glossy and pretty. We're applying it the same way here that we did the first time around. And I am using the heat gun again because like I said, it's a little cold in my garage sometimes. So this definitely helps thin it out. And then I'll do my semi-cure once again and put it in the sun. Like I said, UV resin's amazing because you can like start to finish with your UV resin in like 5 minutes and it's good to go. You don't have to wait a couple days. I have heard that you should not use UV resin as your final coat on tumblers if you're doing that because it is not like food safe. So if I do use UV resin on tumblers, which most of the time I do not, I make sure it is not a final coat. That's just something to keep in mind. But look how pretty this design turned out. It's so pretty in the sunlight. I am in love with it. Please follow my channel. I appreciate you watching till the end. And if you have any requests for any themes or anything you want to see glittered, let me know in the comments.